Hello! Today is September 27th, 2015, and this is Overgrowth Weekly 100 with Q&A number 16. My name is Lukas.
I'm David Rosen.
I'm Anton Real.
Micah J. Best.
And we come to you after like 20 minutes of bugging with Skype, who didn't want to send us sound and stuff, so that was fun. But now we're in Mumble and everything seems to be working. Let's hope that it keeps working as well. So first thing we should do, I think, is get an update on where the game is at right now. So we should probably, even before that, introduce Micah, right? So yeah, Micah, could you introduce yourself maybe?
My name is Micah J. Best. I joined the team about 6 weeks ago now. I am a PhD candidate at the University of British Columbia in Frozen, Canada. I love making games. My most recent project before this was working on Clockwork Empires with Gaslamp Games, who I am still moderately associated with. Anything else anyone wants to know? Oh, my specialization is engine optimization and parallelism.
Cool. So, like, what sort of stuff have you been working on Overgrowth so far?
Basically, my remit is to. I'm a jack of all codes in general in this project, but my remit is basically to supercharge what is currently the arena logic to make it more interesting, to make it easier for the people, the designers, create various scenarios, basically make it sort of a self-contained mini game in itself, sort of a MVP, as it were.
Yeah, Micah's kind of helping with the gameplay code because I've been having trouble switching gears between gameplay and core engine tech sometimes. So this is trying to help get that on separate tracks so we don't have to keep on switching so much.
Great.
So basically, this is the game designer that everyone has been waiting for. Is that what you're saying?
Basically.
Nice.
Oh gee, I get to design things?
At least design the technology. How's that?
Yeah, that's what I'm good at designing. As I've said before, you don't want me to actually design your game, because then it would just be killer bunnies, you know, filtered through Bloodborne, playing like Life is Strange, you know.
That sounds kind of awesome.
I think this is Overgrowth too.
Maybe don't spoil it.
More like the gameplay engineer that everyone's been waiting for.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So what has happened with the team since last time? We have one more person now, don't we?
Yeah, we have a new artist, like character design concept artist called Steve Hom. So I posted on Polycount looking for a new character designer and got like 300 portfolios. And Jill went through all of them and picked out 20 best. And then I went through and ranked them all, and we eventually got down to him. So hopefully we'll have some cool characters.
Nice.
And now is he focusing on new characters or just tweaking existing characters?
Kind of some of both, because some of the existing races that we haven't finished implementing yet, like I was pretty happy with how the rabbits look for the most part and how the wolves look. But the cats and dogs and rats are not really final yet, so they have a lot more room to push them and make them more different from the other ones.
Cool.
Makes sense.
So will he be working only on characters?
For now, I'm trying to get more specialists because we've been doing a lot of like generalist work, especially with art. Like Aubrey's been doing just everything. And now I want to kind of try the opposite extreme. So we could have like a weapon metal expert, kind of like what you're doing right now, Lukas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Lukas, that I didn't have a chance to comment. Your PBR stuff looks great. And as I say, it's even funnier if you just read that as Pabst Blue Ribbon every time you write that.
Yeah,
Oh wait, that's not what it is? I thought you were just pouring beer on your computer and seeing
we've
how
got
it turned out.
some new cheap beer rendering going on.
Hipster cheap
PBR
beer.
shader. Gotta have a special shader for that beer, man. I don't even know what PBR like. You're saying it's some sort of beer. I don't know what.
Oh, it's a total crap, but adored by hipster beer.
Mm.
I just linked to Steve Hong's portfolio in the chat for anyone who wants to look at some of it. Or we could put it on the stream if you want.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see some stuff. Oh.
Julie used to work as an art director at this, evaluating people.
Jill did? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Nice. There's definitely some cool stuff on this site.
Oh, that's how it goes. Okay, I didn't understand how to scroll through these images. Yeah, for sure. Really impressive stuff all over. Cool, so that's Steve Hong.
So maybe he could be on.
I think we should definitely make room for that.
For sure.
So a lot of people are probably going to
Nice.
comment and, wow, hiring a character designer, like, why don't you actually finish the game? But create a team where we have people working on the different things in parallel. So I don't keep getting stuck having to just like switch hats every few seconds, which I think has been a big bottleneck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, that's something that happens when productions become bigger, is that, yeah, you just get more specialized roles. And I mean, a lot of the time, what I've seen in other projects that have different people working on different things that have been going on for a long time is the same thing where, oh, you just revamped the UI or something, why don't you work on the gameplay instead or whatever? But, well, the person who made the UI maybe can't work on the gameplay, so it doesn't really change anything, it just may give you a better UI. That's the only difference. Doesn't make things then take a long time.
And all these things in parallel now. Like Micah is working on the gameplay, and Jill's working on helping, and like Josh and Mark are making levels to test that out. It's like that's still happening while I'm working on finding new people.
Yep.
I know they've been posting a lot of those images internally. Is there any chance in the near future that we can see some of those previews of levels they've been working on?
Yeah. I want to start working more on communicating with the fans soon. And I guess that's part of what we're doing now. But in terms of blog posts and videos, I have to get that rolling again. Because this show has been our primary communication. And I'd like to get more YouTube videos and more tweets and more blog posts going.
That makes sense.
So
Lukas already drafted up a PBR post to explain to everyone how it's not just cheap beer.
that's the main purpose.
When
PBR, not
might we
only
expect
beer.
to see that published?
Probably early next week. I just want to go through and do some editing, and then it should be good to go.
Nice.
Great. So, what's been going on in the past 2 weeks with Overgrowth? What's been going on? What have you been working on? I can say that I've been working on the physically based rendering stuff for the past 2 weeks, pretty much. And the status on that, I think, is like this wasn't never intended to like get straight into the game. This what I'm doing now is mostly just testing it out to see like, is this possible and what can we do with it and what would need to be done and so on. And I think I've got it pretty much figured out. So once David gets done with that, maybe, and we decide to move forward with it, if we do, I think we could maybe move over to a PBR rendering. I don't know, we haven't really talked about it actually doing it yet, but hopefully that will happen, because it looks pretty good, I think.
It does. I know that
I think that'll be important weapons and armor, at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I know that some people saw a video that you posted, and there was some confusion as to which ones were PBR versus which ones weren't. Can you describe some of the things you should look for when you look at a PBR render?
Yeah, I think I'll go through this a bit more in the blog post, but basically the difference is between non-PBR and PBR is that metals is the biggest difference. Like metals look much more like metals, because metals reflect only. They're only reflections. They do not have any sort of diffuse light. They have no like color to them. They can color their actual reflection, but they don't have an actual color. And that's the biggest difference. And so in a PBR workflow, physically based rendering, I don't know if we mentioned that's what it actually means. You can tint the reflection and stuff like that, which makes it so that you can make gold, for instance. You couldn't make gold. I even found a weapon made by Aubrey where it looked like, oh, he kind of tried to make gold here, but it didn't work out in the current system because the reflection still had the same light, like they were still white, all the reflections, so it didn't look like gold at all. And I think that's the biggest difference with the metals. And also, except for that, you can make materials blurry, like you can make them rough, like sandpaper rough. Usually you just make them more or less shiny, like how much of the light is going to be reflected, but here you can make that reflection rough as well. So yeah.
I kind of think of it as a combination between engine features and just a workflow. So you have the engine that supports roughness maps and high definition rendering, or high dynamic range rather. And then you have a workflow where you just look up the actual properties of whatever material you're using and kind of paint that on using that palette. So you don't have to just improvise, like, what does gold look like? I'll add some spec here until it looks kind of right. You're just actually making it look right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'll go through that more in the blog post, and I'll have links to stuff where people can read a lot about this stuff. So if you're interested, that will be interesting for you, I guess. So David, what have you been working on the past 2 weeks?
So we're doing our internal test bench, which is the most unstable one. So I'm trying to make sure that becomes more so we can actually do our next alpha release pretty soon. So I'm focusing on that and wrapping up a few of the rendering features that aren't quite done yet. We don't have the decal rendering system. I want to combine that with our new like tetrahedral mesh grid rendering system so that it can draw the decals all in one pass instead of separate passes on top of them. I'll have to think about whether that really needs to be in the next alpha, because I think the players would rather just see an alpha sooner rather than having more features than are already planned. But I've been working on that, and also working with Jill on establishing work artists, because like right now we mostly need conceptual artists. Eventually we're going to need to get a lot of like finishing artists, and we need to have a workflow for that, getting all the specialists in fields. Like it'd be nice if we want to have like final plans, we have someone who really loves modeling plans and things like that. Because like Aubrey is pretty good at basically everything, but there are some things more than others. I don't think he really likes modeling leaves on plants. It would be good to just find someone who's into that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Anton, have you you're on here making music, right? But have you been actually are you actually working on anything now? I haven't seen anything about that.
I've been a few weeks ago, maybe a little more than that. I was posting a few possibilities since we're sort of with Micah, he's focusing on the arena gameplay. I've been working on some ideas for what the soundtrack for arenas are going to be like. I've had a few concepts that kind of work, but I'm not necessarily sold that it's something that is the perfect match yet for Overgrowth. So I'm sort of testing things out. My sort of initial reaction is, let's just make some big percussive tracks, that kind of get your heart pumping and stuff. Somehow it feels like it's working, but it doesn't necessarily feel unique to Overgrowth. So, and then I'm also sort of conceptualizing a bit how we want dynamic music to play within the arena mode. So David and I have been talking a little bit about some concepts that I want to use with both vertical layers of dynamics as well as sort of modular linear layers. Because at least when I play in mode the way it is, I like to play for like 15, 20 minutes straight. But if you're in one arena for 15 minutes and you have a 1.5 minute loop of music, you're going to be sick of that. So I have some theories about how to loop smaller segments of like a 3-minute cue and have them loop repeatedly and then extend out for that 15 minutes. And then within each of those small loops have multiple dynamic layers based on how well you're playing. So it's sort of a combination of, how do I want to do it technically and how do I want to do it musically at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we've got hooks for all the action that's actually happening as things are going, and more could be added if necessary. So, again, you and I need to chat.
Yeah, of course.
Once we figure out, again, I mean, it does have to sort of be numericalized. Like we're at level 6, 7 tempo, or danger level is 5 or something like that. Come up with 2 or 3 parameters that we can up, down, and that should make for a far more palpable, or sorry, not palpable. My sick brain is not working. Anyway, something you can stand. That sounds. Do you remember the old LucasArts iMuse system? Does that ring any bells? Is anyone else old enough for that?
It sounds familiar, but I don't remember it.
That's their dynamic music system for their adventure games, right?
Yeah, and it worked for the fact that it was not like, oh my god, this same like 30-second loop, but it was more just like kind of a bored, talented chimp just kind of randomly pressing something key, like on like on one of those instruments where you just can't help but play in the right key, which is kind of
right. So
I think we can do better than that.
Probably. The way that I'm currently thinking about it is probably only two levels of a vertical layer, which is there's sort of combat, and then there's combat when you get the crowd excited, which we currently already have the crowd getting excited. So I sort of feel like for every loop that I do, it will kind of it'll be that lower level, and then you'll have like a, you're doing well level on top of that, and then probably sequence, 15 short 30-second loops that have both that intense version and just a lower level version. And then you can just kind of loop and sort of every time you finish a round, you can be like, okay, go to the next step, and then dynamic levels within that. So that's kind of been my approach, but I haven't found a sound yet that makes me want to break it up into so many small loops yet.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could do the Mario Kart thing where, whenever things close to the finish, we just double the tempo.
Yeah. I suppose we could, but if you're doing it for 15 minutes, I guess it depends. It still depends a lot also on how many rounds you play at a given arena before you move on to the next arena, which I don't know if I haven't been privy to that conversation yet. So we should talk some more.
Should be interesting to hear what it's gonna sound like when it's finished. I'm excited to see how it's gonna turn out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Micah, you kind of said what you've been working on, which is the arena stuff, right? So getting the
Yeah, no, it's trying to find a balance between building a system takes time and just sort of making it work. So I've come up with sort of a first pass system for setting up arena scenarios. Basically, okay, so these are the battle conditions. These are where people start out. This is they're going to be weapons, team setup, that kind of thing, and to be able to sort of quickly assign that given the unique geometry of the level. Now, unfortunately, I just sort of said, hey, we can write some scripts for this, and then the designer came back and just said, no scripts, UI. So I've been trying to build a UI that is comfortable enough and reusable enough without having to do all this custom code that's going to take weeks, but that is easy enough to use. So I've been trying to find that balance. My first pass on that was just an abomination to face code, so I had to scrap it and sort of start from a new tack. But when I'm done, it should be very easy for any to put in various scenarios depending on what level designers want to design, and adding a few cool things like death boxes and stuff like that for throwing people down pits, etc., etc.
Sounds very, very nice. All right, so I think, let me look at the notes here. Yeah, so the epic question for each show, I guess, at the end of the state of the game stuff. When is the projected time for the next alpha release right now?
I think it should be within a couple weeks. The internal alpha is for mobile, put it to advanced testing, and then make a video.
Yeah, you cut out a lot there for me, but what you were saying was that it's gonna first go to internal testing and then to advanced testing and then full release and you make a video?
Yep, that's the plan. Okay. And that shouldn't take too much longer because there's not too much left on the task list for me for making that happen.
Great. Okay, so let's jump right into the community questions then. Let's just pick the first one right here then. Dadeichu asks, will this game ever be free?
Probably. Well, through the standards, so it'll 1.0, it'll go on kind of launch discount, and then back to normal, and then do some more sales over a year or two, and then probably, and then we'll regret it until eventually we can have it free or open source or both.
Sweet. Anton, can you take over for a while? I guess
not be for a while.
Asking the questions, I mean.
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't hear you for a sec.
Yeah, okay.
I'm actually going to skip to the next question then, just since you sort of mentioned it in that question. There's a question, what's the relationship between Wolfire and Humble Bundle? At first, this is by shyisc. At first I thought Humble Bundle was owned by Wolfire, but now it seems like it's a separate company that's owned by John and the other guy. I'm assuming he means your brother, Jeff, but with a close collaboration with Wolfire. Can you just explain what happened?
Sure. So Humble Bundle, the first one, was an experiment we did to try and raise awareness of Lugaru. So we did the Humble Indie Bundle and got a few indie friends to participate, and it really took off. Coworker John wanted to pursue that idea full time because it seemed like kind of a big deal. So they went off to do that. And there's no technical relationship between Wolfire and Humble Bundle, but we still hang out a lot. I often work from their office and so on. So there's no official relationship, but we still are kind of close.
Right. So there's no business relationship, but there's, I don't know. Yeah, nothing official, I guess. So
I guess the most official part is that like Jeff and John are still part of Wolfire, in a sense, like they're partners. So that's the main official relationship.
Right.
But there's nothing. That's the only official connection.
Okay. All right. Let's. There's a question here from Naked Squirrel. Will we ever see destructible environments or portions of the environment? I imagine it would be fun to see a player jump onto a floor of wooden planks, only have them break under the character's weight.
That would be, and I think everyone wants to see that ever since watching The Matrix back in like '99. But it's also, I can't promise that because then Jeff will slap me next time he sees me. So we have to really focus on getting the core gameplay done. But this is definitely a cool stuff section, and I added that in Lugaru, sort of. So if you hit people really hard into a wall, or if you land from a really high area, it makes like cracks appear on the ground or on the wall.
And that was just a decal, right?
Yeah, that was just a decal.
So if we were to have something the same, it would be relatively easy-ish to add.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it would be a really fun problem. I just want to make sure that either the game is mostly done, or we have enough momentum going that like I can take a break from doing my stuff to go do fun features.
Yep.
We're having weird stuff going on with Skype.
Have we? Are we having technical difficulties again?
Yeah, Skype is being Skyped. That's
Can
all.
you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Lucas is giving me the
I can
death
still hear
You can keep going.
Well, as long
it's
as
just the
you
video
guys
that's
can
bad.
hear me. Skype seems to be cutting out again. Weird. Lucas, do you want to take back over?
Yeah, where what number and letter
Is
I guess Lucas might be gone.
Oh, all right.
am I? You can't hear me?
Well, pretend that I'm here. I'm assuming that you can. You guys still hear us? I don't know.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Well,
Can
let's
you
just
hear me?
pretend like they can still hear us, and if not, I don't know. We'll just get through another.
I like
couple
this
questions.
question. Where did you learn to code, or how? I'm struggling with it a lot. I want to get in it for game making, but would love some help by BeckettGaming.
Okay.
That could be a good question for Micah.
Okay, so two parts, like how did I learn to code and how should someone else go about getting into this? I've actually been coding since I was 4. They had a special person that took me aside in kindergarten and showed me how to do stuff, but I really started learning to code when I was about 6 or 7, when my father brought home a book on BASIC, and I just sort of went from there. My advice, I mean, again, there are a million tutorials out there to help teach one in order to code. If you're looking specifically to get into coding for gaming, my huge recommendation is to check into a project called Love 2D. It's Love with one umlaut over the O. It's basically the gentleman who created it took all the common open source packages that we would that sort of best of breed SDL, Box 2D, et cetera, wrap them into one nice executable, and then strapped a Lua interpreter over it. And I'm a big fan of Lua. I think it's a really easy language to learn. It's very flexible. It's very forgiving. They've got a great community, and so yes, Slime works on that. Yeah, I would that basically. As I say to almost everybody, the only way to learn is to get your hands dirty, is just to pick something, to find something and make it do something. Grab a tutorial, copy and paste it in, see if you can change something, and go from there. There is absolutely there is no royal road to programming and no royal road to game development. Obviously, if you get serious, I recommend a degree in computer science. There really isn't any substitute for it. But if you just want to code, again, just code. And if love is too much, there's a beautiful package developed, I believe, by MIT that I was playing with when I was I volunteered this summer at a camp for teaching 10 to 13-year-old girls how to make video games. And we use a package called Scratch, which is a very sort of visual environment. You basically, you add sprites, but you still add actual code. You add if blocks, then blocks, and that'll help you. Okay, who just Perl? Seriously, Perl? Anyway, okay. Yes, thank you for the link there, David. Yes, exactly. Yes, so I would, if you're an absolute novice to coding, I would start with Scratch, because it will actually very, very gently teach you the universal basics of programming, control flow, variables, etc., in a very safe environment where you can't have a syntax error, you can't have they've made an environment where it's impossible to have a non-working program, maybe not do what you want. So depending on your level, that's what I would recommend. Have I babbled on long enough? I could spend all day talking about the pedagogy of computer science and programming, but there's no substitute.
Sounds like we need a blog post.
But, sure. Hey, I'd love to.
Because this is a really common question we get.
Yeah, no substitute for just getting your hands dirty. Find something, paste it into a text editor, run it, change it, go. And then if you can find, and then just, Google your problems. Stack Overflow is wonderful, but there is no royal road.
Cool.
Thank you. Very good.
For that, I
good answer, I think.
usually add also modding. I think it's a fun place to start just because you get results really fast. Like Overgrowth code is pretty intimidating because it's all like C-style syntax and AngelScript and GLSL. But it also updates live, which can be kind of fun. So you can always go into here or go into the scripting and just find like jump height and just set that from 10 to 20 and see how you jump twice as high and so on.
Yep, that's pretty cool. Did you
But yeah,
mention?
the main thing is you need to have a project that you care about and are willing to go through some effort to get done.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Have a goal. Have a tiny goal. There's a really excellent extra credits episode on this that I wish I had the link for handy. Again, just try to find something that's really feasible to do. I want to race 2 dots around the screen. You're not going to make World of Warcraft in a weekend. Trust me.
Great.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see a game made over like several
Lukas,
years.
are you
That's
back?
pretty cool. Can you hear me at all?
I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna have to reconnect. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now I can hear you.
Yes. Win.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
So we could take like one more question.
Yes.
Sure.
Should we take this one? By 6A?
Okay.
Sure.
So Sehiro asks, Will there be more animations for counters? It is the same counter to every attack, and for some it doesn't look right, especially if both the attacker and the defender use weapons. Weapon counters would be cool, parries, ripostes, and yeah, and then he links to a video with some examples.
Yes. Like right now, we only have this judo hip throw counter, which, as he mentions, doesn't make sense for all situations. Like if someone hits you, is attacking with a spear and you're blocking with your sword, it's kind of unnatural to turn that directly into a judo hip throw, because now you're suddenly a lot closer than you were before. This is really kind of an animation problem. So this is part of why I'm trying to make a pipeline to hire a new arc onboard them, because I'd like to get more animators. Because I've been the only animator for the whole project so far. And that's kind of difficult because whenever I'm working on animation, everyone's yelling at me, like, why aren't you I have to keep switching gears again. So I'm starting to go towards just wearing 2 hats, maybe eventually down to 1 hat. Like right now I'm kind of like project manager and like core engineer, and eventually maybe I'd like to be just one or the other. Could hire a project manager, or maybe Max can take over because seems like a pretty solid core engineer. But basically, to get back to the question, like I'd like to get more animators and then direct them on how to make cool counters for all the different, or for more different weapon combinations.
Great. So yeah, that would be the final question for today then. So I would like to thank you all who has been watching for watching. Again, sorry for all the technical difficulties. There has been some lag during the show as well, but hopefully that won't be too bad for you. So yeah, remember to check out OG Weekly on Twitter and YouTube. We call it OG Weekly on there. And go to ogweekly.com for the archives where you can find all the recorded sessions. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya.